Hi everyone, Ashley here for Scrapdabadoo Crafts, and today we are going to be making um, our first album of our recipe swap albums. There's four, and they're going to be seasonally. And right now we're doing the kind of winter Christmas theme album. I mean, this is the first album. All the other albums, I believe, we're going to keep the same, and we're going to be just obviously changing up the paper and the embellishments and things like that, but they're all going to be built the same. And then at the end of all four of these, all four are going to fit nicely into a structure that is in my head that will have a drawer. And Carol had said it would be very nice if we could incorporate an easel into the top. That way we can take and lay out our recipe albums on top, because they have such a nice flat profile that they would sit very well on that easel. So that's kind of what it looks like for the next year. This is a year-long kind of thing. And this kit, I believe, was $25. Ooh, you have to correct me if I'm wrong, Carol. They're in chat so they can check. And so they'll be putting in links as we go for those that may be interested in this. If you're not into recipe swapping and stuff, but you want to make this album, they're adorable. And you can take this same kind of theme and set up and make it into anything you want. These are very quick and easy, and these will make really good gifts for the holidays. So inside, it holds 8 of these plastic photo type sleeves. You can see right here. And for these albums, and you can decorate and embellish these any way you like. I completely encourage it. It's, in my mind, it's always recommended. Make it your own. You can use whatever papers you like, wherever you like. I'm just going to give you the structure, and we'll probably actually get to do some of the embellishment, but you'll have 8 of these coordinating seasonal cards. And there's some sugar cookies on this one, peppermints. I think that's it. So you'll get 8 of those recipe cards. And then these on the back are just my leftover scraps from the kit. Now the kits are very generous as far as the cards, well, as far as everything goes, but really with the cardstock. In these kits, or in this album, I put all my stickers on the outside. That will allow me to maximize the space of whatever is on the inside. Okay, there's a pocket up front, and like I said, we've got all 8 of these pages. Okay, so the swap groups have been formed, and everybody has been notified as to who your swap people are. Swap partners are. There's 9 in a group, if I'm remembering correctly, because you're sending out 8. Okay, and so it's just embellished with the stickers that come, and I'll show you the kit, and then I'm going to show you guys how to make this little pocket here at the back. And inside, I don't have my long nails. I made a short card. I've got a little tag. Okay, so you have the pocket on the front inside cover, and we've got this little, they're like policy envelope type envelopes here in the back. Okay. On the spine, you've also, now this charm is not the one that you guys got. You will also receive this little metal piece and then a random charm. So the charms that I'm using are my own charms, but knowing Carol and Barry, they have sent you just an adorable little charm. So in the kit, you will have some chipboard, heavyweight chipboard. You will have brown cardstock. Mine's different than the stuff that you guys received. And then you guys are going to receive a ton of paper. And it's kind of mixed up for me because I'm a spaz. But there's a ton of different papers. I'm just going to kind of, here's some of them. And they used the Simple Stories Basics lines. And that's what we're going to be using throughout all of the swap paper lines, is just the basics, you know, the stripes, the circles, the planes, the stars, stuff like that. That way that all of the 4 albums coordinate, but they're different. Do you understand what I'm saying? They coordinate, but they're different. They flow. So this one will come with the Claus & Co. sticker sheet, which is just absolutely adorable. I love this sticker sheet. It's too cute. And this is all the stickers that I have left from mine that I embellished. So I used quite a lot of these. And of course, feel free to put stickers through this wherever you would like. You can even use some of these, take some of your scrap pieces of paper and make some little Christmas tags and put a little embellishment, one of the embellishments that's left over, and you can use the rest of your stuff for gifts. So there's just a little bit of an idea to use your stuff up. So let me set this aside. The papers that I'm going to use today to make this album, obviously we've got our chipboard and our craft cardstock. We've got our sticker sheet. We've got the striped pages, and I don't know if I'll need both, but I have them here. We've got the green polka dot ones, plain, and then I've got this black one with the stars on it. And that will give us our main structure for the album. So we're going to go ahead and start doing this. Are there any questions in chat? Okay, so Carol said the charms are all different in each kit, which is actually quite awesome. It'll denote kind of the season, I think is what we agreed on, but I am all for everybody's albums being slightly different. It kind of makes it unique and your own, so that's great. A boatload of paper. That's what you got in these kits. You will have a ton of extra paper. Use it up. Use it for your kits. Make extra tags. Use it this Christmas. It's great. So let me get my cutter. And I'm sorry for my squeaky chair. I went from one squeaky chair to the other one. I don't know if it's just me that it bugs, but it bugs the tar out of me. So we're going to start with our chipboard. So the funny thing is I lost everything. I don't know where it went. I don't know where my original measurements are. Nothing. But I figured them all out, so we're good. And I redid them like 15 minutes ago, so we're all good. Okay, so we're going to need 2 of the following measurements, and these are going to be your chipboard front and back cover. So you're going to need to cut 2 pieces at 7 1/4 wide by 4 1/2 tall. So let's go ahead. I just gotta double check that. It's freaking me out. My measurements. Yeah. I might be double checking throughout the. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut my width. Okay. And then 4 1/2 tall. There's 1. And here is 2. Okay. This little piece right here, I'm going to take and cut my spine. So this is going to be 2 inches wide by 4 1/2 tall. And then so these are all leftover pieces, so you can put them in your chipboard piles and use them for something fabulous down the road. Put my chipboard cutter down. So just to review, this is the front and back cover, and we've got this is 7 1/4 wide by 2 inches tall. Okay. And then our spine is 2 wide by 4.5 tall. Okay. So let's go ahead and we're going to cut our cardstock for the front and back outside and then the spine outside. Okay, so for this you're going to need your red striped cardstock. And to do your front and back, I basically like to do everything with a 1/2 inch all the way around except for the inside spine. We don't need a 1/2 inch there. So all we're essentially going to do, oh wait, did I write 2? This should not say 2. I'm sorry, that should not say 2. It should say 4.5 tall. I don't know why that said 2. My bad. It is 4.5. I wrote 2. My bad. So 7.25 wide by 4.5 tall. You need 2 of those. Okay, front and back cover. Okay, I'm glad you guys knew. And then 2 wide by 4.5 tall. Okay, so what I like to do is have a 1/2 inch all the way around my chipboard, so when it comes to wrap I can use my 1/2 inch score tape, which hopefully I have some. Oh my goodness. Did I order it? Oh, I did. Woo! Holy kerschmoly. So welcome to those just now coming in. This is being recorded, so you can always go back and watch the recording. 1/2 inch score tape. So basically we're going to need to cut 2 pieces, one for the front and one for the back, and it needs to be 7.75 wide by 5.5 tall, which means we can get our covers out of 1 sheet of paper. So here's our width. Because when we go to put on our covers, so this will be the back and we're going to wrap. We don't need our 1/2 inch here on the spine because it gets covered by the outside paper, and if you put paper there it's just more bulk that you're adding to your album right here at your seams, so there's no need for that. So this is how it will end up being lined up. You'll have your 1/2 inch score tape all the way around and it perfectly lines it up for you. You don't have to fiddle with it. Okay, so what I am going to do now is put my score tape all the way around, because this will be my outside showing, so you're going to put it on the solid red spot. And for those that didn't know this already, they've got a ton of awesome stuff in the store, and I believe the store is still on sale. I believe it is. For those of you guys that were into the Delusions paints, there's some that are out of stock because clearly they were like 3 something, a paint pot or something like that. Maybe they're 4. I'm not too sure. You'd have to look at in the store. Scrap-a-dab-a-doo. But oh my goodness, if you go to Amazon, they're like $8 a thing. You can literally get almost 3, 2.5 for that price. I could not believe it. I was like, oh my goodness. It's the feel of the century. Okay, so there's that one. Do that to this one as well. And then our cover for our spine, Hey, Monica. Hey, Gary. The cover to our spine is going to be 4.5 wide by 5.5 tall. And we're going to be using the solid, kind of antiqued almost looking green piece of paper for that one. So we'll grab that one next. We've also got some pieces of paper that cover the inside, front and back cover that we also need to cut out of that one as well. So I'm probably going to do, I'm hoping to do this and get this done today. But it will be done in 2 video parts. Okay, so front and back cover and the papers are done. Let's do our spine and let's do the inside covers. So for this one, I've got this green polka dot here for the inside cover, which also happens to be the other side for the outside cover. Okay, so for the inside to cover on the inside, you're going to be, it should be 7 1/8 wide by 4 1/4 tall. But let me just, like I say, double check it. Yep. 7 1/8 wide by 4 1/4 tall. Okay, so we're going to cut 2 of those, one for the back and one for the front. So let's cut our width first. So 7 1/8. Set this aside. By 4 1/4 tall. Okay, so these will cover on the inside. Let me see here. Okay, so for this little piece that we had left over, we're going to go ahead and cut our 5.5 for our height. Now this is your spine cover, so our height on the outside, this right here. So we're going to cut it at 5.5 because we use a 1/2 inch wrap. And the width on this is going to be 4 1/2 wide. Okay, so I'll go over all of this really quick with you. So we can just set our scraps aside, get those out of the way. All right. So this cardstock that covers your front and back chipboard needs to be 7 3/4 wide by 5.5 tall. Okay, so you'll need 2 of those, one for the front, one for the back. Okay, which we've got here, and I put tape all the way around. Our inside front and back chipboard covers for the inside, this polka dotted patterned paper here, which is this, is 7 1/8 wide by 4 1/4 tall. And you need 2 of those. Okay. And then our outside spine cover, which is this green one right here. Okay, this is going to be 4 1/2 wide by 5 1/2 tall. Okay. Now we're going to grab our craft cardstock and cut our hinges and our inside inside spine cover. So let's go ahead and grab our craft cardstock that came with your thing. And I think you guys got 12 by 12 sheets. I don't have 12 by 12 sheets. So okay. The first one we're going to cut is these are all going to be 4 1/4 tall. We're going to cut 4 squares. These are our hinges. They will eventually get scored. We'll go over that. So I'm going to go ahead and do 4 1/4, which splits this right down the middle. And that's our height of our hinges. Now we need one that is 3 1/4 wide. Okay, so wait a minute. Hold on one second. I think I left something out on that one. Nope, that's right. It just didn't look right, but it is right. Okay. Just wanted to double check before I get you all going. So for our first hinge, we've got 3 1/4 wide by 4 1/4 tall. Okay. That's hinge 1. Hinge 2 is going to be the 4 1/4 tall, which we already cut, and our width on this one is going to be 2 3/4 wide, which is a 1/2 inch less than the one before. All of them will all be a 1/2 inch less than the one before. That's going to allow for 1/4 inch gussets in between your pages. Gussets are these gaps in between your pages. Okay? Because you're allowing for a 1/4 inch on either side of those hinges. So this one's going to be 2 3/4 wide by 4 1/4 tall. So 2 1/4 wide by 4 1/4 tall, and then 1 3/4 wide by 4 1/4 tall. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and cut the inside cover, which goes underneath all of these hinges, which is cardstock. You can see right here, it's the cardstock right here. And I just want to make sure I get this inside spine covers. 3 1/4 wide by 4 1/2 tall. Wait a minute. Hold on one second for all of those measurements. Let me just double check. Oh, gosh. I lost my initial sheet. That's why this is a little bit crazy, because I think I might have just messed up. Nope, I didn't. Okay. I'm sorry. So the chipboard, or this cardstock piece for your spine cover, which is what I just showed you, I just wrote it down wrong, is 3 1/4 wide by 4 1/4 tall, not half. I'm sorry. It needs to be the same height as your hinges. There we go. So 3 1/4 wide by 4 1/4 tall. There we go. Yep, that's right. All right. Ay, ay, ay. Okay. So let's go ahead and grab our scoreboard and let's score our hinges. Hopefully you guys are all still here, because I see that the chat hasn't moved, and that's freaking me out. In like 4 minutes, hopefully you guys are still here. I know you're probably just listening, but I can't risk it. Okay, just checking. I figured as much. Okay, so let's go ahead, and all of these are going to be the same. Our hinge portions are all going to be 3/4 of an inch. Let me just double check that. Just to make sure. Yep, 3/4 of an inch. Just wanted to make sure. So with that, all you have to do now, is put your 4 1/4 height over here on this side. So your 4 1/4, and you'll be able to see on your scoreboards right there. There it is. And score at 3/4 of an inch from either side. And if trying to figure out the math backwards is hard, which it usually is, just rotate it and then do 1/4 of an inch from this side. Or I'm sorry, 3/4 of an inch. Oh yeah. These evening broadcasts are gonna kill me. This is when I'm usually napping, for all those that are wondering. And you're going to do that to every single one of your 4 hinges. So this was the biggest, and it's 3/4 of an inch on all of them from both sides. And then rotate. Okay, so let's go ahead and set this aside. And I'm just going to fold up all of these. And we're not going to adhere them together just yet, and there's a reason for that. We've got to put holes on these for our sheets, but this is the smallest one, so this is what it's looking like. Okay, and so each one of these is a hinge, and it's going to hold one of the pocket pages. So here's 2 of the pocket pages, one on this side and one on this side. And what's going to happen is you're going to be able to stack these inside of each other. Evenly, and get your 1/4 inch gussets. Oh, that one's not going to sit up right, but you'll be able to stack them inside of each other, starting with your biggest and working to your smallest. We will be adhering them down, but we will have to do some holes first. So now these are not glued down and they're not lined up, but I'm going to kind of attempt to kind of show you. You're going to be working like this, okay? So there's 8. So we're going to go ahead and set those aside. Any questions so far? Oh, thanks, Heather. Oh. So let's go ahead and go back to our front and back chipboard covers and the paper that's going to cover them. Okay, you can use wet glue for this. You can use your score tape, whatever you would like to use. Now, if you do not have score tape and you're going to be putting this down, just to keep yourself directionally correct, what I like to do, so this would be our spine here in the middle, is line it up to where there's a 1/2 inch at the top and a 1/2 inch at the bottom. butt your chipboard right up against the edge of your paper here. And if you're not using score tape because you don't have it or whatever the case may be, go ahead and just draw your outline. They're never going to see it. No one will know that it's there. Trace that there. That way, when you go to place this down, it's lined up and you don't have anything crooked or wonky, okay? And you're going to want to do the same thing to the back. And that's if you're using wet glue. If you're using wet glue, go ahead and trace it. And what you're going to do is put your wet glue on your chipboard and set it within your lines. Those will be your steps if you're using wet glue. Okay, and you're going to do that to the front and the back cover. If you're not using wet glue and you're using a tape adhesive like I am using, you can do your outside border and we'll put some tape here and stick it down, and then we'll be able to wrap because our tape will already be on here. So let me go ahead and do that. I'm going to put some 1-inch score tape down because I should own stock in this tape, but I don't, but I should. So I'm just going to do a couple strips. This stuff's really strong. So, whoops, I hit my mouse. I guess I could have done that more evenly and put a third. Such a spaz. Okay. That their mouse was getting in the way. And once you get your tape on, just for a safe measure, you're going to want to burnish. It really just reinforces that tape into your object, whatever you're putting your tape on. In this case, chipboard. Oh, that wind is whipping. So I'm just going to go ahead and take my burnishing tool and just put it really down in there. And you'll know that you have it burnished really well when the tape just peels off really easily. See? I mean, sometimes you'll get the actual tape itself. I have no nails coming up with the backing, and you'll know it's not burnished. Okay, so if you're using tape, what you're going to want to do is remove your tape after you've burnished it. Make sure this is all burnished as well. And here's your, I like to leave it like this just so I know directionally where I'm going. So this is your spine insides. This is where your spine is going to be. You're going to remove that one piece of tape. Now, I always like to do my tops and bottoms for my tape when I put things on, because once I've removed that, see, if I had done my sides first, there would be some sticky pieces right here that would be exposed. And while it doesn't matter, I just don't want anything sticking to it until I'm ready. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is set my chipboard piece right inside the score tape perimeter we gave it, and it's perfectly lined up. Okay, again, removing. And if you have a directional piece of paper that's got wording, make sure that it's the right way. Okay, you don't want to have something be upside down and be frustrated with it. And I did not burnish this side. I could tell right away. See, I removed my tape too soon. Okay. And there we go. I'm going to flip both of these over and burnish on the designer side to really just adhere it. Okay, front and back covers are done. What we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and miter our corners, and the only corners that we actually have to miter are our two outside corners for both the front and the back. And so if you're using the Perfect Trim ruler, there's a guide for your thicknesses along the edge and which one you would use and such. I personally always like to use either the 0.125 or the 0.1875. So it's going to be kind of up to your preference, and this is just so you get an even corner wrap. Oh, I suppose I need my, where's my Martha? Here she is. So I'm going to use my 0.125 and line it up and then chop off my corners. There we go. Ooh. All right. Now my corners are mitered, so we can go ahead and wrap. So what I'm going to do is wrap my top and my bottoms. So depending, like if you were to wrap, if you had tape over here, whatever side you start with, which it really doesn't matter. If you started with this side, your next one is this side. You always do the opposite of whatever side you started with. So if you remove the tape here and wrap it over, the next one you do is this side. Because if you wrap and then you do the top and then you have something that's not, it doesn't look wrapped professionally like a book would. So I'm going to do is remove my top and my bottom tape, and then I'm going to take my scorer and run right along the side. It just helps with wrapping and not tearing. I'm just going to create a score crease right alongside the chipboard, like so. Okay, and it helps with the folding. And I'm just going to wrap. So now you have a nice even 1/2 inch wrap. Well, it'll be a little bit less because of the thickness of the chipboard, but close enough. And then you're going to burnish that. Burnish your sides. Okay. Remove this tape. Like so. Now you're going to take and you're going to want to tuck your corners. I have paint all over my fingernails, sorry. They don't look pleasing. And you're just going to push it in, and I'll show you what that looks like. Focus. You're just going to push it right over the chipboard. Okay, and you're also going to score this one right along the edge. It just helps it fold nicely. That way you can get nice corners that don't have cracking and they just look beautiful. Okay, so you're going to do the same thing to the front. I always start with the back, especially when to start everything with the back, because if you jack it up or you mess it up, it's in the back. Now, since you've perfected it, you can move on to the front. Okay, go ahead and score and score. And then we're just going to fold. I need to get myself a new mat. This one's all messed up. Look, I have so much paint over here on the sides. Okay. Same thing again. Go ahead and remove your tape. You're going to tuck your corners and then score along your chipboard piece and then fold it over. Sounds like some kind of like gymnastic move or something. Golly. There we go. Perfectly aligned corners. Okay, so here's our front and back chipboard piece. Now we're going to grab our spine piece and this piece. I like to line mine up on a grid. It just helps, okay? So what's going to happen is, for one, we're going to put some tape around this. But what's going to happen is you're going to have the required 1/2 inch at the top and the required 1/2 inch at the bottom, because those are going to wrap over to the inside. This looks blurry. I don't know what's going on. Hold on, guys. There we go. All right. So you will be putting tape on the top and on the bottom. Do that first, okay? 1/2 inch score tape. You also need a 2-inch wide space. Let me line this up. It's not being lined up right. Okay, so what you're allowed here for is for your chipboard to come in 1 inch into that spine paper for the front and the back, plus a very generous gusset so there's no tearing on your spine once you have folded it, and put your inside paper that covers this on as well. Okay, so what we're going to do is put your 1/2 inch tape at the top, 1/2 inch tape at the bottom, and then we're going to put 1 inch tape on either side. If you don't have 1 inch tape, 2 strips of 50 inch right up against the edge. Okay. If you do not have the tape, again, you're just going to be tracing. No one's going to see this. So line everything up on your grid. Okay. Go in 1 inch. Make sure you have a 1/2 inch at the top and bottom and trace it. Okay. Do the same thing here. Trace it and then put your spine, dead center that, and trace it as well, and you'll know exactly where you need to put your liquid adhesive. Okay, and you'll have the correct gaps. So I'm going to go ahead and start with my tapes and get going. So here's my 1/2 inch at the top and the bottom. Bye, Jamie. So your tapes are going to give you your alignment. If you have your 1/2 inch tape will work for all of this, actually. That's why I love 1/2 inch tape. I make all of my measurements for all of my albums based around my 1/2 inch tape. Like, I'm not joking at all. So here's my 1 inch, and they're always up against the edges. So if you have a straight cut and you put your tape in straight, everything's going to be straight. But if you don't use tape and you use liquid, which is totally fine, just trace it. Okay, so I'm going to take my 2-inch chipboard spine piece here, and I'm going to put some adhesive on it, on just one side for right now. But you could do both sides if you wanted. Might as well, I suppose, since we're here taping. but we're only going to be working with one side for this second. Actually, we'll just do the one side because we're going to be poking a hole and putting in a brad, and I want to put tape over that brad. Okay, so what you can do now before any of this all happens is to take that chipboard piece that you just put your tape on and set it within that green square, giving yourself this equal amounts on either side and adhere it down. Okay, make sure you've burnished all of this tape if you're using tape. If you're using liquid adhesive, again, you're going about this completely different than we are in this video, but I have shown you to do your tracing and adhere down with your liquids. You would put your liquid within your traced square, adhere it down. Put your liquid within your traced area, adhere it down. Okay, same thing. So I'm just going to remove the tape from my spine piece here. And you can do this secondly if you like. It's completely up to you. If you feel more comfortable putting on the outside pieces and then doing the inside to get it at the same height, you can do that as well. So if you want to put on your front and back cover, you're going to remove one side of tape. And I have to flip this so I can work because I'm right-handed. And you're just going to use your tape as your guide because it's straight, your cut is straight, your tape is straight, and you're just going to use it as your guide. Okay? Adhere it down. Same with this one. Go ahead and remove your back piece. Here's your tape. I can see it. Now if you can't see it, you might want to draw a line there. No one's going to ever see that line. You can also use your grid. Okay. If you would like to use some distress inks and things like that to ink up your spine edges, I would have done that prior, clearly, because it's going to be hard to ink now, but you can use a distress ink. I didn't use just distress ink in this entire album. I don't think. No, I didn't. So there's that. Now what you're going to do is take your sticky spine piece and if you want, just to make sure that you have got a even gap between them, you can always go ahead and just draw on your lines. I allow myself a very generous gap. They tend to get pretty chunky and full, especially once I put the inside cardstock on this, and I don't like it when spines crack, and it seems to do the 1/8 is just not enough. So these are practically almost 1/4 of an inch. There we go. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and burnish. Okay, and then what we're going to be able to do now is go ahead and wrap our top and bottom over, and then we're going to put the cardstock over the middle piece, and then our inside is going to go on. But before we do any of that, so we're going to wrap our top and bottom over, and then we're going to be piercing a hole in this and putting in, everybody should have received one of these Tim Holtz Ideology ring fasteners. A jump ring and a charm of some kind. All the charms are different. So this is what it looks like set up. I've got a charm, and I don't know what colors you guys got. This is just my stash. So as far as jump rings and stuff go. So here's the fastener. Oh, I took autofocus off. Hold on. There we go. So you've got your fastener, which is what I'm holding, your jump ring, which is holding your charm to your fastener, and then a charm. Okay. So get that set up and have it handy because we're going to be using that in just a short second. First, we're going to remove the tape. Okay. We're going to score. And score. And wrap it over. Oh, totally jacked mine up slightly. That's all right. Now you'll notice that it's slightly smaller than that. It gets covered anyways, but the reason it doesn't meet up with this edge is because this red didn't have any other cardstock underneath it, whereas this green is going over the cardstock and the chipboard. So it will always look slightly funny at first, but it gets covered and you can't see it, so it's not a problem. Okay, so you can decide where. This is a 2-inch spine, and I'm going to go probably 1/2 inch down. Make a mark, and then find, and I'm going to take that mark and just draw a line straight across, if you want to get technical with it. And then I'm going to find my 1-inch mark because the spine's only 2 inches. Okay, so as you guys can see there, I kind of, let me zoom in again. Kind of made a T. So right where those pencil marks intersect is where I'm going to poke a hole for my charm. Okay. So let me find my piercing tool, and there's a mat for these, and I don't, this one's my jacked up one because I didn't use the piercing mat, so I bent my tip, but I have my cutting mat, so this will work. I'm just, and you can kind of eyeball it for the outside too. I'm just going to push a little bit so it makes the mark on the outside. You can kind of see that little teeny tiny dot. Don't push all the way through. Now turn over your binding and go the other direction because you want all that stuff to go the other way. You don't want all the innards that you're pushing from the inside out. You want to go from the outside in. I was just doing it to make my mark because I don't want to draw on my spine. And it's not that even if you went the other way, it doesn't super matter because it's going to get covered by that little disc, but it matters to me, so I'm letting you guys know. So we're going to put our fastener through there. And if in this process you find that this charm while you're putting stuff on is just too bulky, you can always unhook it. I didn't have a problem with it. Also, if you find that you haven't gone far enough down and you're afraid that this brad is going to peek out, you can either put it down further, which is up to you. I like this distance down. So what I just normally do is take a pair of my my wire cutters And I'll just cut off a piece of, it comes off very, very easily. You can see it right there. It's super easy. I mean, you could even, if you have an old pair of junk scissors, you could probably do it with that too. Okay, so I've cut it down, and then I'll just spread it out with the other side of my piercing tool. Okay, so see, Carol said Timmy scissors work too. So just be very aware of how your brad, how tall it is. You want to leave, you don't want to probably go more than 1/8 of an inch over onto that grain, because you don't want your brad sticking out underneath the paper. Okay, just gonna, I'll burnish that down. Okay, so we're going to take our piece of cardstock that we cut earlier, and this really is just going to cover your spine. And hopefully I cut this wide enough. I think I did. It's one of those barely situations. So, you know what? I'm going to, you guys have plenty of cardstock left. I'm going to cut another piece just because that's the one measurement I had to guess on. So you have plenty of cardstock left, so nobody worry about that. We're going to go ahead and cut it at, it'll be 4 1/4 tall, which this already is, to, let's go ahead and do 4 wide. I'm just more comfortable with that because we gave ourselves 1/4 inch gussets, and it made it really, it's not going to do anything. It's not going to bulk up anything. So just make sure that you have got your 4 1/4 height up at the top, or going height wise. So 4 wide by 4 1/4 tall. And I'm just changing that. The other one would have worked. You're more than welcome to keep it, but it would have been really close. And I'm not comfortable with that. So we're just going to make another one. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and put my tape in the middle on here. And I'm not going to go onto the green paper. I'm just doing the actual cardstock chipboard part. And I'm just going to put some, oh wait, I have to make sure this is my, it's going to be really close as far as which one's the 4 and which one's the 4 1/4. So it needs to be this way. And I should have put the 1/2 inch tape at the bottom and the top, but I didn't, so more days. So this is my piece that goes across here, and at the top of this and the bottom of this I would put my 1/2 inch first and then my 1 inch tape, but I didn't, so bummer days. Okay, and this one you're really going to be eyeballing. All this is a cover for your inside spine. We're going to have a piece of paper that's going over the top of this. You're not going to see the majority of this cardstock. You see what's going on here? You're not going to see this. But it's just the cover that covers your open gussets. So basically I'm just putting my tape on the spine here. Here. You can even put tape here if you really want to reinforce it. You don't want any bubbling of your paper. And I'm going to put my 1/2 inch up here, which I should have done my 1/2 inch first, like along here, top and bottom, and then had done my sides, but I didn't, so bummer. There's got to be an oops somewhere along the line. So for those wondering what this measurement was that I changed, the first one we cut I just didn't feel was wide enough. So our width for this one is 4 inches wide instead of the 3 1/4 that it was, and it's 4 1/4 tall. So our 4 1/4 tall, let's go ahead and burnish all of our tape, including this tape. We're going to remove this tape. I like to do just a partial removal of this tape because if for some reason you jack it up and get it all wonky, because this one is kind of an eyeball situation, you're only damaging, you know, this much of the spine or whatever you're doing. I like to remove my tape in increments. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and remove my top piece. A little bit of each top piece. This is where the 1/2 inch at the top would have came in, because I would have just removed that 1/2 inch and that's it. Because if I had messed it up again, I'm not working with trying to peel up an entire piece of cardstock. Okay, so I'm going to start with my bottom, and you're looking at about 1/8 at the top and 1/8 at the bottom. And about 3/4 of an inch on either side, honestly. But that doesn't, again, really matter as much as your height does. You need 1/8 of an inch at the top and 1/8 of an inch at the bottom. As long as the sides are on there, it doesn't matter, because you're gonna get, it's gonna get covered. Okay, and once you have discerned that both of them, or decided, I don't know where that big old word came from. Once you have decided that you've got 1/8 of an inch here at the top and 1/8 of an inch at the bottom, go ahead and press that one spot that you removed the tape. Now it's held in place, and you can go ahead and remove the rest of the tape. These might seem like tedious steps, but in all honesty, they're going to help you in the end from pulling your hair out and messing stuff up and getting all frustrated. Go slow, take these steps, double check your measurements, and go from there, and you'll be a lot happier with the process. Anybody can make these. Okay, and now you're going to burnish that down. Okay, so now we've got our spine on, and now we're just going to give our front and back a nice push over. Now you want to go nice and slow, allow that paper into the crack on the inside. You don't want any spine crackage. It's such a weird word. Okay, go nice and slow. We gave ourselves really nice gussets, so go ahead and push it in. Work with it. Be careful. Do not crack your spine. And then there we go. Okay. Now we're just going to take our inside front and back covers. You're going to be lining the top and bottom again with that brown cardstock. That will give you your 1/8 inch all the way around, including on the side. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and put tape on my piece. If you're inking your stuff, you would want to ink these around the edges before you put them down. So let me go ahead and this one I'm going to start with my sides. This one I'm going to start with my left and right side, because when I go to put it down, again, I'm going to just remove one piece of tape. Like I'd remove this one, and I would line it up, and then I would stick it down. Okay, and then that piece that one piece I removed will hold it down while I peel off the rest. Strategically placed tape, people. How to build an album with tape 101. And there's really no weight on the insides of these covers, so you can just put a couple strips and call it good, or you can put some wet glue, whatever you like. But I would put something. There shouldn't be any cause for buckling because this paper, it's not going to go over this seam here, and this paper is completely adhered down. So these are very simple and quick and easy albums. They're small and adorable, and you're going to get a lot out of it, honestly. They're all going to be kept made the same way, to the same dimension. They have to, because there's going to be a gorgeous little keepsake box that it's going to go in after we get all 4 done. And so they all have to be made to the same height. I don't know if the brads are going to be the same through all of them or what will be the case, but I do know the spines are going to be relatively neutral papers. You know, I'm not going to give you a nice green, a really subtle blue, and a nice tan, and then give you a neon orange spine cover. It's not going to happen. So there is no worries there. Plus, you can put whatever paper on the spine you want. That being said, when you're doing this, keep in mind you've got 3 more albums that you're going to, Carol said the brads are going to be the same for those that may be watching this video. You have got 3 more albums that you're going to be making if you're doing all of these swap out or recipe albums. And you want them to have some kind of cohesiveness, unless you don't. You do you, okay? But that's my plan for all 4. Okay, so I'm going to remove 1 piece of tape. And what I'm going to do is, again, this paper is going to get lined up where there's 1/8 of an inch at the top and the bottom and the side. And it looks good. There we go. So now I've pressed my tape down, and now it's held in place, and I can remove the rest of the tape. Oh, I'll totally come over there, Carol. I can run a store. I can do it. I don't know if Barry would like that, but I can totally do it. I can't exactly put everything on sale because it's already all on sale. I don't know what else I could do. And go ahead and burnish it down. And do the same to the front. Again, I started with the back in case I jacked it up. Yeah, probably. I probably would. Well, no, I don't like to have excess bulk, clearly, with all of my purging that I've done this year of my craft room. But if there's something I don't have, I will definitely pack it up and take it away. Again, lining up with your brown cardstock, the top and the bottom. Press that tape down and remove the rest. Bye, Cindy. Hope you have a great Thanksgiving as well. Okay. And then we'll press that down. There we go. So now your album is essentially built. We just have to put the hinges on, and that's going to require a few additional steps. For this, we are going to go ahead and put score tape or adhesives, whatever you're using, on here, but first we're going to have to punch holes in these. And in order to do that, you're going to want to create a template with your clear sheets. And your template can be cardstock, it can be chipboard, whatever little spare piece you have sitting around. One of these is 4 1/4 tall. I think they're both actually 4 1/4 tall in there. And I'm going to make it 4 1/4 tall and 3/4 of an inch wide. So let's do 3/4 of an inch, because your hinges, the phalanges, is what I call these, but they're technically hinges, is 3/4 of an inch. Okay, so you're going to be able to set your template right on top of it, and we're going to go from there. So I am just going to, this is my template, and just so I know, I'm going to write a T for top and a B for bottom. Just kind of what I do. And then I'm going to place my photo sheet right over the top of this. This is going to give me my template. But when I do this, it is very important for you to know that there are 2 seams on this. Let me try and zoom this in. Hold on. Okay. You can see here there are 2 seams, one here and one here. When you do this and you create your template, you're going to want that inside seam, which is the one that would be closest to the photo picture right here, okay, to be a little bit above, you can see here, okay, that way you have easy folding when you flip your pages. You put these seams below it, and because these have a wrap around them, it's not going to flip very well. I like to have the seam on the outside of this, and I'll show you exactly what I mean in just 1 second. Okay, so that seam is on the outside of this cardstock template. This is just a template. Let me autofocus here. So what you're going to do is set that on there, and you're going to draw in your circles. And now we're creating our template. Okay. And just so you have a better guide, let me zoom in. Okay. So there's the T for top. There's our first circle. Right here I wrote spine because this is the side of the, here's our hinge. So when we're going to line this up to punch it, this is where our spine would be. See? And then we also have our bottom one. Okay, I know it's blurry. Let me unfocus here. So let's go ahead and we're going to take a hole puncher, and you can do a 1/8 inch punch on here. That's perfectly fine. I don't know what happened to my puncher. Give me a second. Now you can use just a regular school punch and just punch the whole thing out. I'm just going to use a little 1/8 inch hole punch and get a little circle right in the center of these. We're just needing something to punch. This is our guide for our hinges. And we just need a little hole for our brads to go through. You don't have to open this entire hole up. It's preferable that you don't, but it's completely up to you. It doesn't matter if you did. You can open the hole up and do a full. So we have our hinges here. We have all 4 of them. And what you're going to do is take, and on the outside of these flaps, you see right here, or you can, well, let's do it on the inside. Because we've got our wraparound as well. Yeah, let's do it on the inside. Well, hold on one second. This was one of the spots that I had an issue with before. It's too close. Okay. So here's your hinge, okay? What I want you to do is take your template, lay it on each flap with your spine wording to the back here, and trace, and make sure you have them perfect. You could sit here and measure each one if you wanted, but I'm just going to take my little template and go right over the top of it. And I'm going to trace my little holes on each one of these. You can see there's a hole right here, and there's a hole there. I'm going to do the same thing here. Spine side here, this is the top, this is the bottom. Okay. I'm going to do that to all 4. Just make sure that your top and your bottom stay at the top and the bottom, and your spine stays at the spine. So if you're doing this back hinge for this one, when you go to do the front hinge, you kind of have to just lay it over. You won't be able to see your writing, but it'll be the same thing. That way everything stays in alignment. I'm going to go ahead and trace them on. Just flip it over. And once you get the hang of doing this the first time, your other albums will be a breeze. Okay. So I drew a hole there, 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 and there. So our 2 hinges. Let's do our 3rd one. Hi Daisy, I don't know if I said that. Welcome. Welcome to everybody and those that I may have missed coming in. Okay, and then this one. Go ahead and flip it. Top and bottom. Okay, so now that I have my holes, I'm going to go ahead and punch them, just because I can. It's much easier now. You just don't want to punch a hole bigger than the hole that's on here, on your sleeves. Like this one's smaller and the brads are smaller, but that's okay. or this hole is smaller than this big one's, but it's held on by brads. It's going to be totally fine, and there'll be some tape there too. Okay, so let's go ahead and get these holes punched. And then we're going to put score tape on the back center pieces. Cover the whole thing, or if you're using wet glue, you'll be doing wet glue and putting them down at the same time. What time is it? Oh geez. We might have to come back for a part 2. Should we do a part 2? I guess next week, or shall we just keep going? It's completely up to you guys. I could care less. We can keep going. I don't got anywhere else to be. But I don't know if it's getting late for people back east or Carol and Barry. So I guess they can make the call. Because we only have about a half hour left, and we'll need a little bit more than that. Probably at least another hour after that half hour. Because it's the tedious point of putting in all the brads. Everybody wants me to keep going. I'm totally fine with keeping going. You know me, I can broadcast for 12 hours a day. Okay, so on the backs of all of these, so here's the front where our flanges stick up. We can put the tape down here. So on our backs, we're going to be putting the tape or wet glue. And if you're using wet glue, you're going to start with your smallest and put it on your next size. You would start with your smallest here, put your wet glue down your seam, find your next size and center it with 1/4 of an inch on both sides and adhere it down. Okay, that's what you would be doing, which I will show you with the taped version. Where's my 5/8 inch? Carol and Barry don't have the 5/8, but they have the 3/8. I have a 5/8, which I wanted to test drive. I need I just needed that one strip. That's our biggest one, and so I'm just going to keep putting tape down. Well, I just didn't, it was pretty much up to Carol and Barry because I didn't know if they had things planned or what the case. I am completely fine with keep going. Okay, well, let me burnish that. Let's go ahead and do your last one should be 1/4 inch tape, or again, you can use your glue. Okay. So if you're using your glue, like I said, what you're going to do is start with your littlest one. You could use your biggest one if you wanted. That's completely up to you. You could start with your biggest one and then use your next biggest, and then so on and so forth. You can do it both ways. But what your ultimate goal is to set this, I'm just going to bend its wings back just for show, inside this one with 1/4 of an inch on either side of it. Okay? So you can use your grid for this. It does come in handy. And remove the tape. And like I said, always start with just a little bit of tape pulled. Okay? Until you get it all lined up. This part might take a second. Just be patient with yourself. Okay. So my tape that I pulled off is holding it down, but you can see here you've got your 1/4 inch there and there. And I'm going to pull the rest of my tape off and then realign it. Okay. So there's 4 of our hinges. So you're going to grab your next one and do the same thing roughly. Again, you can use your grid to help you. Okay, whoa. Make sure it's lined up before you just go flipping it down. Huh? Okay, I don't think that one was lined up right, but I'm just going to try to wiggle it over a little bit. And burn it up. And you'll be able to start seeing if your holes and stuff are lined up, which mine are, because they'll kind of line up with each other. You see that there? Okay. And then our last one. Okay. Now we have got all 8 of our hinges. Fold them all this way. And I'm going to fold them all this way, just so they've got a really nice bend to themselves. They're all 1/4 of an inch spaced. Okay. What we're going to do now is we're going to take the tape off the back here. It gets lined up with the top and bottom cardstock of the brown. See, it lines up right there with the top and the bottom. And about 1/8 of an inch on either side of the actual spine chipboard piece. Pull that out. So I'm just going to go ahead and eyeball this. There we go. Alright. And I've got my charm here on the spine, which you don't have to put your charm on right away. You can just put your is it hitch fastener? Your fastener, whatever, from Tim Holtz, and then put your charm on last. It's up to you. But you're going to want to burnish this, is where I was going. You don't want it to be super bulky while you do. Alright. Now we've got all of our little hinges in. Okay. So I'm going to stop this recording for part 1, and then I'll do part 2, which will be putting in our pages and embellishing. So for those of you guys that are watching part 1, thank you for watching part 1. And we'll see you guys in part 2. Bye, everyone.